So what type of dewormers do I have available to help these horses?
Well, there are quite a few, but there are some that are specific for certain parasites.
Okay.
We have different drugs, the pyrantyl pamoate and the oxybendazole, which are very useful for ascarids and strongyles.
Okay.
And then we have more broad spectrum anthelmintics like ivermectin with moxidectin. And that does have some resistance. All of the dewormers have some resistance or have developed some resistance, but the ivermectin with the moxidectin is really good for encysted strongyles. And that's a big concern in every horse because it's part of their life cycle. So we need to at least once a year use something that can get rid of those encysted strongyles.
Do we have a daily form that we can use to hopefully prevent
We do.
parasites?
Yeah, actually it's used for daily feeding. You put it in the grain. And we like to use that in specific cases. It's good for horses, and we do worry about a little bit of resistance with all of the dewormers, but we have found that by giving the daily deworming, it does not cause resistance in the other dewormers. So it's good for geriatric patients or anything that might be immunocompromised. It's really good in foals up to 18 months to help prevent the encysted strongyles, and it's good in performance horses. Because any parasite, when they get into their GI tract, can cause inflammation in their GI tract, and any inflammation can decrease the amount of nutrient uptake they get from their food. And so when you're asking a lot from a performance horse, if they have any kind of problem like that, they can do not up to their maximum capacity of performance.
Okay, great. So what schedules should I use in terms of planning out my year to deworm these horses?
Well, that's a great question. It's good to have a calendar. You can either do it on your phone or actually just use a calendar where you remind yourself in the spring, usually March or April, to do a all-purpose or broad-spectrum anthelmintic. And then again in the fall. We recommend, say, after the first frost. We used to think that it would kill off, the frost would kill off the larvae or the eggs in the fields, but we realized that isn't really true. But it's just a good way to remember that the fall is a good time to do another deworming. Between that time, though, it's important to do fecal egg counts. It really is dependent on how much of a shedder your horse is, if it's a high shedder, medium, low. So we determine that from looking at the fecal egg counts. And it's also important to think of the pre-patent period of the life cycle of the parasites.
Okay.
And that's the period from ingestion of the infective larva until they are actually shedding the eggs. And that is typically 70 days. It's not the same for every parasite, but it's a good way to remember that really every 70 days we'd like to have a fecal sample that we can determine how your horse is shedding.
In terms of dosing these horses, how do we know how much to use?
Well, it's pretty easy actually, and all of the dewormers come with instructions for dosing. What we're going to use today in your horse, because it's spring and we decided to use a good broad spectrum anthelmintic to get the encysted larva, we're going to use the moxidectin with ivermectin and Droncit, and so we can get tapeworms as well. But looking at the packaging, it actually has body weight markings on it. And there are different ways to determine the weight of your horse. We can estimate, but there are weight tapes that are good, or if you do have a scale at your farm, you can actually weigh your horse. And looking at the body weight, sometimes you can use measurements to the body size and their mass. So you just dial the marker to the weight, and your horse is about 1,200 pounds. So we're actually going to dial out to about 1,200 pounds, and you just insert this into the corner of their mouth, and it's good to get any food out of their mouth before you give it. And then disposal is really important to keep this away from anywhere that a dog could get to it. Especially the ivermectin with moxidectin can be quite fatal to dogs. Collies are extremely sensitive, but really any dog should not be able to eat or ingest this dewormer.
So important to dispose of it well.
Yeah, and we worry about children or anything, any animal, we want to keep them from eating it. So make sure you dispose of it. Probably in a plastic bag is the best idea, a Ziploc baggie, or you can give it to me to dispose of. Just make sure it's out of a garbage can that they have access to.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll show you how to use it. So just remember, dial the appropriate size according to the markings on the tube, and then take the cap off. This is a mistake that people make sometimes, and it's kind of hard to pull the cap off of this. Get a comfortable hold of the tube in your hand, and then sometimes you just have to warn your horse that you're going to put something in their mouth. So put your finger just in the corner, and you can either insert it from the corner or put your hand over their nose if they don't like things in their mouth, and then just slide the tube in. You don't have to jam it in the back of their mouth, you just need to put it over their tongue.
Okay, great.
And if you drop anything, or if some of it is still on the tube afterward, go ahead and you can either put it on your finger and insert, or just slide the tube back into their mouth. If they did drop some on the floor, have a backup tube so you can dial the approximate amount that they dropped and administer that.
Great, thank you.
No problem.